well, I want to get a better car. I want to get more girls. Or if that's your reason, you're never going to be successful. Well, is this business saturated? Of course, every business is saturated. Who makes the money though? The guys with the top 10% knowledge every time.
Oh, you're going to make 10K a month. We're going to do 150. And it's like, dude, your offer sucks. Your marketing sucks. You're basically just scamming ad leads and they always refund.
Because yes, you can post testimonials all you want. Photoshop's not hard, man. You can do that pretty easily. Like, what else do you have on top of that if you're going to charge $5 to $7 grand? Because you can find that knowledge on YouTube. If it's like, hey, here's my flashy lifestyle. If you want this, buy my thing. Avoid it. Run. Most people are pretty similar. They have their own little uniqueness to them. But most of the people that are coming to these calls have very similar problems. If you get this skill set, do not use it improperly. And you saw what happened to him when he did. He went to jail. If someone can't comprehend what I'm telling them, they're not going to comprehend what's in this 30-hour course. That one guy I talked to yesterday, he got scammed out of $60,000. It's like, well, how did that happen? Well, this chick told me everything was going to be okay. She was going to be there for me, and then she blocked me.
You're going to make 10K in sales, which results in about 1K profit. You probably have to spend about 5K to do that. And then it's like, what just happened here?
Get them in the door, get them making money, and they will come back, and they'll pay 20 grand. This guy thought we were going to pay his bail bonds for him. And so he's like, I'm waiting for the check. I'm like, so I'm talking about a marketing agency. He's talking about a check for probation.
As soon as you get some money, you want to bring everybody around you up. And it's like, dude, that's not what's going to happen. You're going to get pulled down. So in terms of portraying an image, I mean, I don't even make much money anymore. So I kind of just say I'm broke. So that's
60 grand in debt on this business. I need you guys to fix this situation for me. And I'll give you 5 grand. I'm like, absolutely not.
He made me read this book 3 times. And this is all it says, the one thing. Focus on one thing in 300 pages, over and over and over. Your brain is your biggest enemy, not the people around you, not the people on the internet. If you're competing with other people, you're being an idiot. You need to compete with yourself first.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have Chandler Bonvillian. He is a high-ticket closer. He's closed over, is it $3 million in the last 2 years? $3 million in the last 2 years. So we're going to talk all about that. So thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, so get us first, I guess, break down what high ticket sales is, because I'm sure a lot of our audience doesn't know what it is, although they've probably been on the call with a closer. So
yeah, absolutely. So, there's tons of different industries you can sell in with info products specifically, which I'm sure a lot of you guys that are watching this are familiar with, whether it's courses, mentorships. There's someone on the other end of the phone that's going to do the call for the guy that you're buying into. So if you have a mentorship, you've been following someone for a while, you're like, hey, I like this guy, I want to learn from him. You're never going to speak to that person directly, almost 99% of the time. And so to offset their time so they can focus on fulfillment, meaning making sure you have the knowledge you need and making sure you're taken care of on the mentorship side, they bring people like myself in to get on those calls and just make sure you're making the right decision for yourself. So that's basically in a synopsis what I do.
Yeah, and how'd you get into it?
Yeah, so funny enough, 4 years ago, I was working at GNC and I absolutely hated it. I'm lucky enough to come from middle-class family where dad runs an appliance business. And so learned a lot about work ethic. And then I played college lacrosse for a little bit. And so I always knew, looking at what options I have, getting a degree, it's either A, get a normal job sitting at a desk all day. So I did that. I worked at a racetrack for a little bit. I did a lot of sales for them, selling events and sponsorships. And I realized, okay, well, this office thing is not for me. Get all my work done in 2 hours and ride a scooter around the track. But okay, this is done. So ended up getting fired. And from there, I ended up having this mentor. His name's Matt Lovett. And he kind of told me, dude, you have 2 options. You can either go work another job or take a bet on yourself. Now, at this point, I have no money in my bank account. I've got rent due in 2 months. And so I said, screw it. I bought a mentorship and got into it that way. Biggest risk I ever took. But, from there, I just started DMing hundreds of people. Hey, hire me. And eventually it worked out. Worked for this guy named Chris Crone for a while. Quickly climbed up the leaderboard there, was one of their top closers, and then moved over through the funnel down to other offers and started getting into management. And now I work with the 2 companies I've been with for the last 2 years. So pretty interesting journey for me for sure. But I've learned for sales reps, people that are looking to get into sales, it's not a game of this is like a side hustle and it's going to be a part-time thing. If you don't commit to it, you're never going to get good. It really is a trial by fire kind of game. And I see it as a sport. That's what it is. It's a sport. And that's why I see athletes do the best with this. So, yeah.
Whose mentorship did you get? when you originally got into it?
So yeah, I got into closer cartel initially. That's what I first started with, and then actually the most I ever learned was through. It wasn't a mentorship, but it was my team lead for Chris Crone, this guy Josh Blanch, and this guy had collected over $10 million plus in his career, and he sat there. He's like, "Look, I see you have the ethic. I see you want this bad enough." He just started meeting with me one on one 3 times a week, and he's like, "This is what you're doing wrong. This is what you're doing right. Hey, here's the other skills you need to be good at sales. Not here's a script and here's what everyone else does. Here's the premise of why this works." And I think that's something in any business you guys could probably take away from this. And you guys probably have seen this yourselves. Like, yeah, someone can show you step by step what to do, but if you don't obsess over the knowledge base, like, why does this work? You're never going to be good. So,
Yeah, 100%. Everybody gets focused about the what, like there's some little secret thing, but it's like, it doesn't even matter what you know. It's like, why does that even work? Or you're never really going to
yes,
understand it. So yeah, I like that.
exactly.
Yeah. So explain a little bit the commission structure breakdown of this stuff. Cause
Mhm.
I don't know if you touched on that before, but so you closed $3 million in deals, but how does the commission structure work on a lot of that?
Yep. So it depends on the company you're with. Some people like the higher the ticket price, the lower the commission is what I typically see. So if you're selling a $15,000 product, you probably get like 7 or 8%. But the generic baseline in our world is about 10% of what you close, you get. Now I'm lucky enough in a position now where I manage, so I get a base plus I get bonuses on what everyone else closes, like a revenue share, and then on top of that, I get my commission as well. So I have 3 million accounted for that I've done, and another few million from people I've hired and trained and closed, and kind of gotten into that world of coaching sales reps too now, which is pretty cool. So,
What's better, the coaching or the closing?
so I found for me personally, because I played college lacrosse and then I ended up starting a nonprofit down here in New Orleans where I coach youth, and it's a great thing, and it's really cool being able to mentor other people, and so that kind of transition to the sales game where it's like, yeah, I love being on the phone, I love working my ass off. Um, but at the same time, teaching other people that want to learn is a big difference. But teaching people that want to learn how to do this and watch them go from working a 9 to 5 to the first day they quit their job to making 6 figures. There's nothing like that, I would say. It's pretty inspirational. But once again, I think in sales, there's something that is intangible that most people don't have, and I think this is across the board with business, by the way, as a whole. Something like I ask someone, why are you doing this? When I coach someone, the first question I ask, why do you do this? It's typically, oh, well, if it's something along the lines of, oh, I want to get a better car, or I want to get more girls, or if that's your reason, you're never going to be successful. It's the material and the sexy ego feeders that doesn't do anything. It's I want to be the best, and I don't care what it is. I just want to be the top. Or you have a deeper reason. Like one guy I work with, he grew up in the UK working in a factory making minimum wage, and his parents have worked in a factory, and he's like, I'm going to make sure my mom never has to work again. Those are the driving factors that I see that really differentiate, make people great.
Awesome. What you got, Joe?
Yeah. What is some of the biggest kind of takeaways you've had? I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people, obviously you sold a lot of mentorships and stuff like that. Like kind of
Mhm.
what is, I don't know, have you seen a lot of people fail? Maybe like why do people fail? Because we both sold coaching, like I bought coaching, like obviously we bought a big mentorship together and then we kind of dropped out after like 3 or 4 months. So what are the kind of trends that you notice for people who actually stick to the mentorship versus don't do well?
Yeah. So if we're talking about students onboarding, typically, is that what you mean? People that do
Yeah.
well with mentorships?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is a great question. So I've seen this for mentorships I've bought. I've spent over 30 grand in mentorships this year alone. So just like you guys, there's a clear, I think if you're buying a mentorship, you have to know what you're buying it for. And a lot of people think, oh, well, this is going to be the differentiator that makes my life perfect. And I try to tell people, especially on calls, like, I'm very particular on the companies I work with because I have morale. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and put someone in something that doesn't work. But at the same time, I always tell every student on board, this is not press a few buttons and you have an SVJ in 2 months. This is not, you're going to make a bunch of money quick, nor is this going to suddenly attract a bunch of girls or, get you your dream car. The point of this is for you to learn from someone that's done the thing already so you don't waste 6 months figuring it out. That does not mean you're going to just make $1 million. There's still going to be work you have to put in on your own. And so the people that come in trying to make a quick buck or quit their job fast, they typically will start, they have that little motivation boost. It's similar to the gym. It's like, all right, I'm New Year's resolution. I'm ready to go. And then after about a month, they just stop and they quit on themselves because they're not seeing the money coming in. But it's kind of the time frame and the time horizon you see success. People that think in a 1 to 3 month period typically do really, really poorly. People that think in a 1 to 3 year period do very well because you're not going to have success right out the gate with anything. I don't care what it is. People ask me all the time, well, is this business saturated? Of course, every business is saturated. Who makes the money though? The guys with the top 10% knowledge every time. And so I would say the winners are the ones that have a long time horizon, and the people that actually obsess once again over why does this work and what do these people know that I don't. That's what they take away from the mentorships. It's like the tools, the resources, and what do they know that I don't? Because you can find all this shit on YouTube, all of it, and anything. But it's like, how many people do I have to fish through to find the right information? Like, as you guys know, there's people saying, oh, well, this is the way FBA works, or this is the way FBA works. But in reality, half of them are just trying to push a mentorship on you. So they're giving you bullshit to try to get you in the door. Like, oh, you'll make 10 grand in a month, first month. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So you were saying everything's saturated. We talk about that a bunch on here. What do you think? You've probably sold for so many, make money online programs
Yeah.
and stuff. What is the best business? What is the best way to make money online from everything you've sold, or is it closing? What's the, if you could, I know that's a tough question probably to boil it down, but if you had to choose, like you restart from everything, everything about all these models, what's the easiest way or the best way, that kind of thing?
So it depends on where you're at in your life. Now, I think if you have no money, like I was in a position 3 years ago, I had not a dollar in my name. You go skill based. So this once again does not mean you can become a high ticket closer and make 20 to 40 grand a month part time. That is not how this world works. And I know some people paint it out that way, but this is not like a side kind of thing. I don't think most businesses really are if you want to get to a 6, 7 figure level. But starting from zero, I would just do what I did again because I have a natural ability to listen and communicate. And there's a lot of back end skills. People just think sales is the skill. No, I mean, active listening, you look at being able to show empathy and understand human beings and help them solve their problems and be a leader on the call. There's a lot of things that go into it. And I enjoy that game. I enjoy, helping people understand themselves and believe in themselves too, because you'd be amazed. A lot of people that haven't had success before don't they can't tangibly see, okay, I can do something with my life. It's like, well, I've kind of followed the traditional route for the last 10 years. Am I capable of this? It's all your belief system. It's what's in here. So anyway, that would be the first thing, would be for me personally, if I started from zero. That now, if someone has, 10, 20, $30,000, what are you looking at? Well, you're not going to get into real estate. People say, oh, you can put 10 grand down and buy. The cash flow makes no sense. I think if you have 6 figures to invest, then start looking into real estate. But from my experience, I think you could go build your own personal brand. That's one way to really start to make money. If you have a stupid skill like, I don't know, crochet, and people want to get into that, you can make money selling anything program wise if you just know more than the average person. So that's one thing. Secondarily, I do think e-commerce, I wouldn't sell it if I didn't think it works. Now, is it hard? Absolutely. But I do think there is a way to do e-commerce properly. And if you do it right, you can make money, but you have to go in with the understanding of this isn't going to hit for another year. So I would say e-commerce or sales. I've seen a lot of people attempt to get in the marketing world. I do think marketing is way harder now than it is, especially with AI. And the copywriters are just getting better and better. And so therefore these bots are like, if you guys have heard of Claude before, you can plug in all of your sales copy in there and it'll write systems and just days and days and days worth of content. So I personally stay away from marketing. I tried it. I did a sales and marketing agency for a little bit and I had a few clients, but I think in our info space, if you don't have a really good organic structure built out first, like I won't take a person on as a client if someone came to me if they don't have an organic build out, not because you can't close ad leads, but purely because where is the validity and trust in our world right now? A lot of people book 7, 8 calls, and they keep going to different calls. If you don't have that trust built organically, the ads are never going to work properly and efficiently. You're going to be break even. So yeah, I would say sales or wholesale is good too. Wholesale is really solid.
Yeah. To talk about a little bit more about like what makes a good offer there. I know you talked about the cold leads and the ad stuff. Do you ever get on something and you're like, whoa, like this person's never going to make it work? Like the offer
Yeah.
owner, or is it ever
Yeah.
like, oh, this is going to be, cause I know from, the mutual people that we know, it's just like, dude, this is like the scammiest industry of people being like, oh, you're going to make 10K a month. We're going to do 150. And it's like, dude, your offer sucks. Your marketing sucks. You're basically
Yeah.
just scamming ad leads and they always refund, that type of stuff. So like what are like the red flags and the green flags of, okay, good offer owner, good offer, that kind of thing.
So this is some advice for anyone that is in my world that is evaluating offers. Number one, do not trust any OTE. If they tell you this is how much you're going to make, cut it in half, and that's how much you'll probably make. I've learned that. OTEs are their way of selling you to come work for the offer. So the first thing I ever do, number one, is I'll ask for the OTE, and then I ask them for their sales numbers just to see if they're full of shit first. Because if they're lying about how much I'm going to make, they're lying about everything else. That's the key term number one. So look at, okay, well, what's their revenue? What is their top closer doing? Because OTEs for me, I don't care what someone else is making. I'm going to make more. But you still have to evaluate, is this number actually possible with the leads they have coming in, with the close rate, the show rate they have? So anyway, that's number one, is looking at their data. Number two is actually trying to get a look inside their program. Because yes, you can post testimonials all you want. Photoshop's not hard, man. You can do that pretty easily. Now, luckily enough, like when I started working for the current offer I'm on, they showed me inside the Facebook group and showed me the actual testimonials and showed me the progress the students are making and showed me feedback. And so from there, I think it really just comes down to, well, what are they offering first? If it's a 4-hour course, I won't fucking sell it. I refuse. Because you can't piece in an entire business in 4 hours. Like one of them I work with, it's 30 plus hours, 128 videos. But the course side of it's one thing. Like what else do you have on top of that if you're going to charge 5 to 7 grand? Because you can find that knowledge on YouTube. So then you look at, okay, well, what's the coaching system? If they say 3 to 6 calls a week, 5 calls a week, are they actually taking those calls? Is the offer owner the one on the calls? And then you look at from there, okay, well, what resources and services do they have on top of that? So you can tell very early on, though, what is the structure of the business. If there's just an offer owner and no one else running the business, typically not a great sign. That person, I see a lot of offer owners try to get off the phones too quick. You know what I mean? Meaning, okay, so I started an offer myself. I'm not at 100K yet. I should be on the phones. No doubt about it. And until they've cracked the sales themselves, they can't hire the right sales manager or the right closers or the right setters. And so what you end up with is this group of little kids that have been texting, hey man, can you get me an offer? Sending the same message that these courses teach them to send, these closers. And you end up with a bunch of just morons that don't know what they're doing. And from there, your show rate tanks, your close rate tanks. Doesn't matter how good your leads are. If you don't have the right team in place to close them, that it's scratch. But also on the marketing side too, how much content are they posting? If you're not addicted to posting content, you're not going to make it in our space. You have to be the forefront of their brand at all times. And it's not about, hey, look, here's how much this business can make. Here's my flashy Lamborghini. People don't care about that stuff anymore. When I ask, why this person? Why are you here on this call to buy mentorship from this person? Down to earth. I trust them. They the way they speak. They're not here bragging. They're not flexing. Anyone can rent a supercar. We all know this. So I think looking from where are they marketing from? What are the pain points they're hitting? If it's like, hey, here's my flashy lifestyle. If you want this, buy my thing. Avoid it. Run. That's my advice for everyone. So
That's pretty good. When you get a cold lead, so I'm just curious, like, how much does the lead make up for the salesperson? Can you put a decent to below average salesperson on an offer with really good leads and they're going to close a bunch of calls? And can you put somebody who's an extremely good salesperson on like a shitty offer, shitty ads, bad leads, all this stuff, and then they're not going to close much? How much like correlation do you think that makes?
I think the offer is 90% of it in our world. I really do. Because I think a great offer, you can bring shitty sales reps in and they'll still close, because at that point you're order taking. You're not really closing. And I've worked in both worlds. I've worked in the world of cold calling leads that bought a $7 ebook, have no idea who the guy is, and close them for $5,000 and just top of the leaderboard there. And I've worked on offers where it's just, hey, look, I know who he is. I know I want this. I've done my research for 2 years. I'm ready to go. And that, I do still always, like we just started running ads again on one of my offers. And it's a good practice to keep your brain warm and know how to do that. Because if you've never dealt, like when I hire sales reps, it's like, well, have you been through the ringer yet? Have you worked with shitty offers yet? Have you dialed over 100 people a day for the last 6 months? If you haven't, I'm not going to hire you because you haven't gone through the hard shit. It's a game. So if you can close those people, you should never have a problem over here. So I do think it won't affect someone if they're on a good offer, but I think when that offer starts to get hard, because every offer does, there's ebbs and flows. And when December comes and people are spending money on Christmas and not ready to buy, what are you going to do if you don't know what you're doing? And so I always, always, always have been grateful that I had to work on shitty offers for as long as I did to figure it out. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be able to train people the way I can,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I used to close, like, we've had coaching programs. I used to close my own, and I was like a 90% close rate. I would close everybody. I didn't know that I wasn't really closing. They were just buying because they saw me on social media. And then I ended up running like people that didn't know me, and my close rate was like 10%. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not very good at the sales stuff. But it's like, yeah, if you learn from just, the offer's easy, the leads are good, yeah, you're not going to learn anything. But being in like the trenches of this person barely knows who you are, it's going to build you up a lot more. Yeah, that's pretty neat. What else you got, John?
And sorry, John.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to preface, as you get the skill set and you get good enough, and I've talked to over 5,000 people, and you start to figure out, okay, most people are pretty similar. They have their own little uniqueness to them, but most of the people that are coming to these calls have very similar problems. And so you start to dive into it and you realize almost everyone's closable. However, it can be used as a good thing or a bad thing, because some people you should not close. And there is a clear line that you have to morally draw with yourself where it's like, this person should not be here because I know they're going to lose money. And and so when you get good enough, you kind of understand that. And so that's anyone looking to get into this space, always, always, always make sure there is still morality behind what you're doing, because this isn't a game of let's scam people and take money. And if you're doing it for that reason, go sell drugs. Don't do this. But with that point, though, I've seen every problem a person could possibly have, a reason for doing something. And really, when you're coming, and this attaches to marketing too, this attaches to e-commerce. People buy for a very particular reason. It's, what does this do for me? And so if you can identify, well, what is that gap? Okay, here's my goal. Here's my problem. Right? This is sales simplified for everyone watching. Okay, my goal is to make another 10 grand a month. Well, that's not enough. Why? Well, I want financial freedom. Well, what the hell does that look like? Everyone wants financial freedom. Well, my mom's been in the hospital for 6 months. I've been working my ass off, and I just really want to be able to take care of her and give a life that I never had to my mother, for example. Okay, that's substance. And then you go into, well, what stopped you from getting there? Well, I just don't know where to start. Well, that's kind of a lazy ass answer. If you wanted this bad enough, you'd find where to start. So then you call them out, and then eventually you dig. And it's like, well, my real problem is I'm fucking terrified. I don't know what to do, and I'm scared I'm going to fail. And then your program or your product, even in car sales, it's like, well, I want this car because I want people to perceive me this way. They haven't before, and connect the bridge. The product is always the bridge. So that's how I would always say I sell. But to summarize the point, always have morals behind your sales. And I went through George Belfort's course from 20 years ago. I got it through a friend that had the link. I don't even think you could buy it anymore. And it was a lot of information, but it came down to the weeds of, he says the same thing. If you get this skill set, do not use it improperly. And you saw what happened to him when he did. He went to jail. So,
yep. What is it, John?
Yeah. So what is that moral line for you, and kind of how do you know if someone's really not a good fit? Because it almost seems like some of these people you might be talking to, you probably have two deltas. One, people are really desperate that really need some money, and other people who are like, I'm kind of bored and looking for something to do. It'd be nice to make some money. Yeah. So kind of how do you figure that out, and or what are your morals when it comes to this?
So if someone comes to the call and says they just quit their job, immediate DQ, not going to have that conversation. Number one, that's the biggest. And that happens way more than you believe. Man, I've seen this work. I've seen people making money. I'm quitting my job, or I have quit my job. All right, see you later, man. Call me back when you get your job and you have consistent income. That's number one. Number two, I always ask, how much money do you have set aside for this specifically? Not in your savings account, set aside for a business. because I don't want someone to come in here and be homeless in 2 months if they take their, the money they have saved, their emergency savings for this, and so that's the second part. And then the third part is, are they actually understanding what I'm saying? And I'm sure you guys can pick up on this. You're having a conversation with someone and it's just going right over their head. And they're asking you very, very, I'm not going to say dumb questions, but they're asking you questions where it's like, okay, well, this is pretty obvious if you watched the BSL and you actually went to the webinar and you listened to what I said. So if someone can't comprehend what I'm telling them, they're not going to comprehend what's in this 30-hour course. So I think that's part of it. And so that's just having the ability to kind of navigate the call and understand, well, is this person, it's not smart enough, but do they have the competence to sit down and actually spend time with this? Like if someone's working 2 jobs and they don't have 10 hours to even focus on this, they're going to fail. No problem. And so it's understanding what makes someone successful from the students you've onboarded versus what makes people fail. Once you know that, stay away from these people. Because number one, they're going to lose money and they're going to be pissed off and leave a bad review anyway. Number two, you're going to get refunds. Number three, why even do that? It's not worth the commission, So that's my line. And not everyone in that space operates that way, just so you guys know. I mean, there's a lot of shitty people in the world, offer owners, salespeople. And so it kind of hurts the people like myself and the people I hire and train because they come to this call with a bad taste. I had one guy I talked to yesterday. He got scammed out of $60,000. It's like, well, how did that happen? Well, this chick told me everything was going to be okay. She was going to be there for me, and then she blocked me. Well, so now we all have, this horrible look. In reality, we're trying to help people out. And I think that's the main reason I still do this. I've had opportunities to get into tech sales and be, VP of sales for a pretty big company and all this different stuff. And I've stayed with this because I remember where I was 3 years ago when I was scared shitless to get into an online business. And then, once I finally did it, it's like, okay, wait, this is great. I work from home. I travel, I go wherever I want. I have money to spend, take my parents to dinner, all kinds of cool stuff. And so I don't want to ever stop. So if I can help someone get into that world and give them the chance to do it, I can't sit there and babysit them and force them to go through the course. But if I can help them take that first step and overcome their fear, who cares what happens with the mentorship side? They're betting on themselves for the first time in their lives. And that's a pretty beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, a lot of times it's like, yeah, I always hear from salespeople, you're not really selling them as much on the program and stuff as like just making them believe in themselves, because everybody's got this self-belief issue. Like that's really like the big hurdle is like, even if they're giving you all these objections, it's like, really, dude, you just don't believe in yourself. Like we just got to get down to like, why don't you believe in yourself? And another thing, you were talking about the scammy stuff like that. I've talked about this on here before. When the SEC or FTC or whatever comes down on some of these offers, like it's not just the offer owner. It's the person running ads. It's the salespeople, like everyone involved in that. Like you were going to get hit. I know there was a big guy. You probably know who I'm talking about. The guy destroyed with an FTC thing. Who's this guy? I think he's a sales guy, right?
Yeah, it was a sales guy. He was promising $10K a month job offers, not fulfilling on it. Yeah, it was pretty massive offer. I think they're doing like $4 million a month at some point. It's pretty big.
Yeah. He got like a $10 million or $50 million thing. I saw him on a podcast being like, yeah, we run, like there's a, like a medical thing on the bottom, like here, just in case this happens, you're not guaranteed income, all this stuff and all their stuff. But yeah, that stuff freaks me out. So I'm always like, you got to have like a moral line or you're going to get wrecked.
I'll tell you,
that stuff
with the FTC, if you're not doing something you're not supposed to do, you're going to be fine. I will never, if someone asks me, do you guarantee anything? I laugh at them and say, you should not be in business. Plain and simple. If you're looking for guarantees in business, you need to go continue to work your job because nothing in life is guaranteed. Your fucking job isn't guaranteed. I know that because I got fired. And so with that being said, if you don't make crazy false guarantees and you fulfill on what you say you're going to fulfill and you're not sitting here lying to people, they're not going to file FTC complaints. If you do what you say you're going to do, it doesn't matter the outcome. If you say, hey, look, here's a realistic expectation. It's fun. I say this on every call. I'm going to set a realistic expectation for you so you don't come headhunting for me. You have my personal cell phone number. I'm going to tell you how this is going to work so you don't come for me in 3 months. And never had a problem with that because I tell them exactly what the realistic expectation is. And if it's for you, great. If it's not, oh, well. But if you do say this is for you and the thing that's stopping you is fear and your belief system, that's where you use the skill set to objection handle or really just help them overcome their fear. But a lot of the problems come into marketing, very heavily on marketing. You look at these landers and it's like, hey, we guarantee $100K a month or, well, what's the or? You get free access for another year. And people fall for that shit. It's, if someone's selling you based on a guarantee, you should probably not buy the thing. Is kind of my thought process, because nothing ever is guaranteed, especially if they don't know the kind of person you are and they're not evaluating. I don't love guarantees. And that doesn't mean guarantees are bad if they're set up right. It's like, look, if you do this, 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 and you don't hit this, we will give you a full refund. That makes sense. It's holding a person accountable. When it's just a blatant statement of you're going to make $100,000 or we give you another 6 months. So that's one thing that definitely flags that. Now, what I've found is the FTC typically will go after people that run paid ads. That's been the general theme I've seen. Like, once you start hitting a threshold of like $1 million a month and you're running paid, that's when your flags start coming up for sure. And so with both of my offers, we've reframed all of our, I don't use scripts, but like for my reps I train, completely different scripting. We're not saying this, this, and this on the calls anymore. We're also in our marketing, we're avoiding these keywords. For example, like lifetime access. That's one thing that screwed a lot of people over. And I've seen this with an offer I coached for, a sales offer I coached for. She promised lifetime access. Well, she didn't realize that meant lifetime, but the students thought they were getting lifetime, right? And so here she is, she disappears off the face of the planet, and I'm stuck taking care of her fulfillment for her, which was fine. I got paid for it. But once she stopped paying me, see ya. This is your problem now. And so she's probably going to be dealing with some heavy lawsuits in the next few years. But
yeah,
I will tell anyone starting off. yeah, you did actually.
I think that's who it is. Yeah, that made me. I talked about. I didn't say who that was, but on the podcast, I was like, "Man, this is like so bad. So many red flags. You're basically like guaranteed an FTC claim there, and you had a bunch of people following it, right? So that's like, what's even going to happen there? I mean, is there a high chance that the FTC comes after something like that you just explained?
No, I think it's such a small. If the students put complaints in, absolutely. But I think it's such a small offer. It's like a dent in the dust, because there's offers that we don't even see, that are doing 7, 8, 10 million a month. There's offers in the back end of the space that, people don't even know about, that are doing ridiculous numbers. And, I don't know. These are people that have ads clicked so well, they don't even need personal brands. They just run ads properly, or they like referral based. There's offers that do stupid 7, 8 figures referral based, So I think those are more the big dogs that they go after first, but those low hanging fruit typically get away with it. And it's unfortunate, but those people, it'll come. It'll come. The FTC is starting to focus more on info. It's going to come. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm making sure my companies, we're doing what we need to do. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
You're good. You can finish your thought. I was just going to add to it.
I lost mine. You're good.
Oh, what do you got, John? I lost my shit too.
I guess there has to be a good balance between marketing to get someone interested and then also being like realistic. So a good example in our space is like I get targeted all the time just because I'm in the space for Amazon FBA, and the person will be like, listen, in the first 90 days, you're going to make 10K. And that sounds great for most people, but like me and Drew know that means you're going to make 10K in sales, which results in about 1K profit. You probably have to spend about 5K to do that. And then it's like, what just happened here? Like, so what do you think is the right balance? Because obviously you have to get them excited, right? Like making 1K in 3 months probably isn't that exciting for most people, maybe for some people, but when you throw in, you have to spend $5,000 to do that, it gets even less attractive. So how do you kind of think about that when it comes to the offer and pitching it? If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you are into it and a fan, and we really appreciate that. If you could do us a solid and subscribe, and do all that stuff, it really helps the podcast grow. And secondly, if you could tag us on Instagram, just take a picture of what part you are at the podcast. If you like it, tell us what you think about it. Tag me at Side Hustle Experiment, and I will definitely share it. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah. So how I pitch that, I first solidify them on the long-term vision. Like, do you have the ability to think about this from a 1-year standpoint and understand, will you be profitable on your first launch? Sure, you can be. Will you be profitable your second launch? Sure. But are you going to take $1 out of the business? Absolutely not. You're a year away from that. can you stay in your job for a year and be patient enough to be successful? Because this is what the top students, you see all these testimonials coming through. They're not pulling money out the first month. So do you want to be like them or not? And that's how I pitch it. And I do find not bullshitting people and shooting them straight is the best way to sell, because everyone's so used to these idiots that are just lying and just like, full of shit and manipulating. And so when you have an honest conversation with someone, they can feel that, in their souls. Like, okay, this guy's being honest with me and I trust him because of it. And so I now know that realistically speaking, all of these other people I'm talking to, like our mutual friend, Andrew, for example, they had a call with an individual that had 5 other calls booked, and had the call. They're like, look, I'm going to speak with 5 other people, came back and bought from our friend because it was a trust thing. It's like, you actually told me the truth. And these people, I just watched every single one of them lie to my face. And that's why I'm coming to you guys. So I think to get them in the door, to get a call booked, is the business model always painted a little sexier than it is? Of course, that's marketing. It's marketing across any industry. But I think your job as a sales rep is to shoot people straight and make sure they understand what they're getting themselves into, and also make sure they understand that if they do their part, they can be successful. Because if you're selling something they can't be successful with, seriously, excuse my French, but fuck you. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And so that's kind of my thought process on it. And that's why, with this space, I am so particular with who I've worked with. I've had offers left and right come right in front of my face. And they're like, hey, look, we'll pay you even more than you make right now. Sorry, I'm good. You're full of shit. So.
It segues perfect. I remember what I was going to say earlier. So where do you see the space going in general with this kind of stuff? Because what I've noticed, I got into the marketing thing last year, learned a bunch, and then now I'm out of it a bit. But I noticed that like after Hormozy smacked the guarantees on everything, came out with the books, it's like guarantee more, promise more and stuff. I feel like there's probably going to be a bit of a slingshot effect to where it's like you're talking about, you have to be real because these people have already been through 7 sales calls and failed at 3 different businesses. Like, how much do you think that's going to change over time? Are we already reaching the point where you barely get a brand new person? It's always somebody who's tried something else before. Or like, what's the future of the industry, you think, in that way?
You see a lot of people, they buy, like with sales specifically, they'll buy sales mentorships and they say, hey, here's how you sell, or they'll spend 20 grand. And I really do think you have to innovate as the industry changes. And I've watched it completely shift from 2 years ago to where I'm at now. I mean, people were, blatantly just buying things. Whereas today, it's like you said, I've been on 8 sales calls. I've talked to multiple people. I've failed at drop shipping 3 times. And so it's figuring out ways to be different for sure. Because I don't think it's going to get easier at all. I mean, I don't care how good your marketing is, how good your scripts are. It's going to continue to get harder. And that's why I'm seeing from when I started my graduating class of my mentorship, if you will, there's maybe 2 of us left still doing this, and it's because people don't know how to change. And so they're plastered because our space is it's very clicky, as I'm sure you guys know. It's very clicky sometimes with sales reps, especially. And so you have this group that, okay, they have 7 offers, but this agency runs all their ads and their friend owns a sales mentorship. So all the reps come from this company. Well, all these guys have never been on a hard offer before. They've never struggled or suffered. So they get on these offers and everything's going fucking great. And then they turn paid on and it's like, oh shit, what's happening? And then their offer tanks. And so that's what I've found, where the reps that are still in the space, that are still pushing, are going to continue to get better. But the guys that are on these breeze offers that are order taking, they're not going to do well in 2, 4, 5, 6 months. Because it's going to get harder. There's more offers popping up every day. It's impossible to keep up. People promising more. And so I think it's the people that have the biggest personal brands are always going to be on top, number one. The personal brand is crucial. If you want to scale this and make it more efficient, like one of my offer owners, we're looking at, okay, what's the 4-year, 5-year plan here? Not like let's get to $1 million a month. How do we build this into a long play that's going to consistently print cash flow? And so now we're looking at building out softwares internally to keep the students involved and keep them using us. So the front end of it, we get them in. It's not like a 1-year thing and they're gone. How do we retain students, number one? But number two, how do we also educate and build our own student base, if that makes sense? So it comes into, okay, well, starting them off, educating them through content. And then, you guys are familiar with funnels and build-ups. You have your $7, your $49, your $7.99. And so I think when you look at this from a long point of view, once you build trust with a group of people, you can then work them through a funnel. And that's how you keep the longevity going. And so I think a lot of people that just have one product that's just like, all right, $7,000 for a year, those people are going to crumble in the next year because they have no backup play. They're not going to continue the cash flow, and the offer shuts down. I've seen that 100 times. So,
yeah. As I learned something similar to that last year of just like, you need to have all these products built out so you can fund these high ticket sales. Cause the days of just running cold ads to high ticket offers, like, dude, you're going to be paying $300 a call. Like, it's not even possible to do that. So you have to have some kind of umbrella under it to just fund your ads, even if you break even on it, and build the trust. Like you said, I know people may not know this, but if somebody pays you even $1, they're way more likely to pay you again, or pay you $50. It's like that. So yeah, I bet a lot of off-roaders probably don't know that. In our space, I don't think it's very common, really. That we're not in like the Amazon FBA private label space, really. It's like the online arbitrage. I don't know if you know, like KT Hustles, Flips for Miles. They have big offers of that. A lot of them just run single offers, but they've started building out this whole thing of like $7 course, $249 course, and I'm sure that helps a ton.
And one big thing too, that if any offer owners listen to this, that you can do to really solidify yourself and make sure you have longevity is make sure your low ticket product actually teaches them how to make some kind of money. Now, in the FBA world and e-commerce, it's a little bit harder, but if you can teach someone for $49 how to make enough money to afford your high ticket product, you've got an infinite money stream now. Get them in the door, get them making money, and they will come back and they'll pay 20 grand, not 4, they'll pay 20. And that's the name of the game. And if you can figure that part out, you have the infinity stones, if you will.
John, there you go. That's your offer. You do $49 for the Amazon influencer, and then you upcharge for the UGC. He's in the UGC stuff right now. We've had some people on about that, and it's like that kind of is a pretty good idea. You can charge a little amount for something that gets people instant money, kind of like in the next few months, and then upsell from there. That's good.
Yeah,
we'll have to tell the next person on here that too. But okay, so I wanted to go into some kind of call stories. So do you have any funny call stories, or I'm sure you have so many of these things. Because I've had some of mine that I'm like, I cannot believe I just got on that call.
Yeah. My first Zoom call ever, had this guy. He had an ankle monitor on him, and he kept saying this shit's round table, and I wasn't getting it. But basically, the advertising was so bad on that offer, this guy thought we were going to pay his bail bonds for him. And so he's like, I'm waiting for the check. I'm like, so I'm talking about a marketing agency. He's talking about a check for probation. So he was stoned out of his ass. So that's happened. I mean, it's just so many interesting, odd people I've talked to. Sometimes you get cursed out because you have this guy that's an alpha G on the phone, and you tell him like, look, you're full of shit, man. What's going on here? And they're like, oh, fuck you. And they go leave you a bad review. That's happened. I think a lot of my interesting stories though come down to just really shitty marketing. I think that's where it all happens. You attract they have no idea. They just click it. And the fact that they show up is a miracle, Now I do have some, cool stories. Like I had a kid that I started, he was in a very interesting spot, and, he had a good job, but he was miserable, and he comes in, does $60K after his first 3 months in FBA. And so there's a lot of cool stories like that too, where you do actually see people do the thing they say they're going to do, and they're successful. And that's what keeps you going, because this shit isn't easy. You wake up every day and take 16 calls. Most days I'm working 8 to midnight, and it's a lot. But when you hear people actually doing well, being successful, that's when it's worth it. And like coaching lacrosse, for example, I had one time this mom come up to me. We won state. So my first year coaching high school, we won state. And, we're at the banquet, and she goes, you're part of the reason my son didn't kill himself. And that kind of stuff is what keeps you going, man. And I'm sure I know you coach as well. And so that's the reason you do it. It's to influence, man. It's not to make yourself feel good for watching little kids dunk. It's really to watch these kids not grow as athletes, but grow as people. And I think that all translates as well into my game, where it's like, if I can help you make a hard decision, your confidence is going to go up. And I told a guy this one time, it's like, you make this hard decision. Now you're going to feel better about yourself because you took a bet on yourself. And watch the approach now when you're at a bar and you go up to a girl versus this little scared, like, hi, my name is, versus you feel like a G now. You're ready to go, And so that's one thing I do want to talk about, though, is dating in our world. And I'm kind of curious to hear both of your opinions on this. When, a lot of our world is social media, and you have to kind of project an image of yourself. And so I found it very difficult finding the right kind. And I'll let you guys talk about this first before I give my experience. But I've just found it very interesting, what women's standards are today and what they're looking for versus finding women that are genuine. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about that. I'll kind of tell my story about that.
Well, you've been there for a while with your girl, right, John?
Yeah.
You guys have been together for a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then John, I mean, John's pretty big. His YouTube's big, his Instagram's big, but you probably, you had that before all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I shy away from it. Just kind of, we were talking like before on the call. Like, I don't ever want something bad to happen to me, and then it gets way out of hand and kind of leads in the wrong way. So I kind of shy away from it. I feel like in the FBA space, you don't see it that much. I don't really see like a huge angle like that. I feel like most of the people, they all just brag about that they hang in a house of guys and they just work together. That seems to be like the angle for most of it, and like that's like a way to succeed, I guess. But yeah, overall, like, yeah, you definitely see it more and more. I think kind of what you're alluding to, just like kind of the standard is definitely set much higher. And I think mainly because of social media. And I guess the sadder part to that is like a lot of social media is bullshit. So it's really not there. But I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, clarify a little bit. What like the standards of just clarify it a little bit more. I'll probably have
it's always interesting. You go on a first date, right? And luckily enough, I think I found a better person. But I was in a relationship for 4 years, and that started before I was successful. And then as I started to become successful, that started to kind of wean off, where the expectation is, hey, I see you're doing this, I should get more. And so I've kind of learned my lesson. You keep that shit private, for sure. You don't tell the other person necessarily what you're doing. But from there, every first date I went on after that was like, so you sell drugs? No. Here's what I do. And it's like explaining that is damn near impossible in the first month. And then from there, it's like I'm about to simplify my life down to the fucking bare bone. Like, I spent a bunch of money on stupid shit, bought a jet ski, I've got a Corvette, I've got a Tesla, all that stuff. But I'm getting rid of all that because I've found the image that is portrayed. Horrible human beings I've attracted, like disgusting scum of the earth people that just want shit from you. And so then you look at your friend group and you look at the women you're surrounded by, and it's like, holy shit, if I don't pay for dinner, you're never going to talk to me again. And so that's something I've had to separate myself from, because I don't necessarily come from parents that have necessarily like made it to that level. My parents do well, but I had to learn a lot of these like financial lessons the hard way. And that's why I pay a coach now. I have a life coach, $1,000 a month. He's like, get your shit together. Here's this, this, and this. This is what you're going to do for your health, wealth, relationships. And, so I think there is room for that for a lot of guys my age that are coming into money, but making sure for me, I'm not portraying myself a certain way has been very important. It's a big change I'm making in my life. So I guess that was what I was alluding to.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I've actually been like going through this recently of just noticing like the circle of people around me, whether it like what it's kind of doing to me in general. You know how much this like makes an impact on you is like who's around you, especially like girls for sure.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it's like if you try to bring people up, as soon as you get some money too, like everybody was broke at one point. As soon as you get some money, you want to bring everybody around you up. And it's like, dude, that's not what's going to happen. You're going to get pulled down. I heard an analogy once. It's like, what's like a Toy Story or whatever, where there's a crane. It's like trying to pull the toy back when they're bringing Woody out. they're like, no, come back. Cause they don't want to see him get out and like be this toy that Andy plays with. That's kind of how I feel like it is. It's like, you want to help people and you want to bring up all these people around you. Everybody you meet, you want to pay for everything and all this stuff, but it's like, you're not bringing them up. They're just bringing you down. And it creates a terrible relationship. I heard Dan Bilzerian talk about this one time too. He was like, it's awkward every time I bring my friends somewhere because I have to pay for everything. So they feel like they kind of owe me, but they also feel pissed off that they don't have what I have. It's like that kind of never ending circle and they want more. It's just difficult. So in terms of portraying an image, I mean, I don't even make much money anymore, so I kind of just say I'm broke. So I'm just broke, but I wish before I would have done that. I've just been like, I used to before I was just bragging all the time, like, yeah, I'm rich, whatever. And then they all thought I dealt drugs, like you said. That's like the first thing that people go to. But now I just say I'm broke, And then no one even believes me then. Then they just think I'm rich and then they just don't even care because it's like, well, he obviously doesn't care about it. So that's what I've found. And if I ever come into a bunch of money again, that's what I'll say. It's just like, yeah, I'm unemployed. I just do whatever. And I think that just attracts people who are like, well, I don't really care what he does. That's,
Yeah.
I hope I'm right about that. We'll see how it plays out. But
I think you definitely saw a lot about that in like pretty much like the FBA space. Probably like 2 or 3 years ago, like that was the thing to do. Like you share your screenshot every month. This is how much I made. Like it's unclear like how much you're actually making. And like I've always felt that it just puts a huge target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Where everyone wants to find your storefront now. Everyone wants to prove that like you're basically full of shit and that you're not doing. And they're like, you're getting text messages like or DMs like, oh, are you at this gym or that gym? Like trying to get your location so they can find your store. And like, so like I like early on was like, you know what? Like I'm not gonna share these numbers anymore because it just doesn't really bring you anything good. And then it, no offense, brings a bunch of you into my DMs and be like, hey, like we're gonna scale you up to like 60K coaching. Like I
Yeah,
still get like
exactly. It's just
10
annoying,
DMs
dude.
a day doing that, and I'm just like, I don't even know who you are. And then so like I literally unpinned all like my FBA sales, and like the number has definitely gone down. Like I still get them, or like, oh, we see you have a school group. Like we just helped, I don't know, at Drew M like scale to 100K. I'm like, I don't even know who Drew M is. Like it's just insane.
I get
So
those DMs too, and I don't even have an info product, and
crazy.
I get those DMs, man. They just look at, oh, he's got a nice car. All right, let's work for him. Funny enough, though, I've found specifically with so I started posting personal branding. I attempted this about 2 months ago, and I very quickly stopped for this reason. I'll tell you guys. I was posting on TikTok and Instagram, and I was getting some traction, 1,000, 1,200 views. It was going well, and the person that was helping me do content's like, okay, talk about like what you do a little bit more and talk about like what you make and what your checks look like and all that stuff. Cause I was just talking like giving life advice for like a young man that wants to be where I'm at. That shit unfolded and unraveled very quickly. Girls that, were complete just dicks to me in high school, liking my shit. Oh, all of a sudden add me on Snapchat. And then you've got all the guys that were assholes to me in high school. And I got one guy, honestly, man, we all said our whole class, you'd never be anything. And all of a sudden, here you are. Holy shit. Well, you think you're going to get lunch with me for saying that? Really? So, that's where it starts. And I was just like, fuck this. I don't need this. And, so yeah, I've kind of decided to uproot my life and move to Florida in the next 6 months. So going to get away from this, but yeah, that's my lesson I've learned. So, because a lot of my brain has been recently like, where do I go from here? I have I'm doing well, consistently making X, Y, Z. And, there's only so much you can grow in sales without like offloading and leaving companies. And I've been with one company for 2 years where we've built this thing, from zero up. And so I'm not in a position where I'm ready to exit the game, but it's like, what do you do in sales when you're working all day? And so that's been kind of my mental conundrum is where do I go from here? And so I think my game right now is save as much money as humanly possible and then get lucky on some real estate deals. That's kind of my play, but we'll see.
So where do you, you're talking about the future of you. I was actually going to get into this. So do you want to start your own offer or something? And another piece of advice I can give about, the situation you're in earlier, I would separate yourself. Like the way you probably know me is much different than like how most people know me, just from the way that we know each other and stuff. Like I just separate myself. I'm like two different people, one on the internet, like the Drew FBA guy and another person in real life. I recommend that a lot. And try not to combine them too. I think it's, a lot of these guys that run ads for sure, they have whole different personalities. Like they have a different name, they have everything. And then it's like people will approach them in the street and it's like, hey, you're this guy. It's like, yeah, it's funny. That's like not me, but that's my internet. I think that's a decent way to kind of do that, to kind of figure it out. But do you think you'll start your own offer, or do you think you'll go in the sales space?
So I did start an agency, and I had one client come in and paid $5K, and it was great, but it wasn't because I then learned like, okay, well, this isn't a sales problem, but you pay me $5,000 to fix your offer, so now I've got to fix your VSLs, your funnels, your marketing, your content, and so it became like a full-fledged thing. So from that world, I don't see myself doing an agency because I tried it and I absolutely despised it. From the coaching side, I was going to start an offer, but then I realized the amount of time I'm going to leverage doing that, starting from zero, I can make another 10, 15 grand just taking more calls. So it's kind of like sales. There is this thing called golden handcuffs, and you're kind of stuck. Once you're in it, and you're making this kind of money, um, your expenses start to go up, which is why I'm trimming mine down. So I'm in a point where I can buy myself 6 months to build something. Because that's really where I'm at. You take calls all day and it's great, and you learn the skill set and you get better and better. But eventually I'm a builder. I want to build something, whether it's a SaaS or it's an offer. And so right now I'm trying to buy myself time to then be able to do something like that. So I think an offer could be in the cards, but also I don't want to, with offers, it's hard. And you probably get this. You basically become someone's life coach to an extent, if you're onboarding the wrong kind of people. And so then they're not successful because of, you can give them all the knowledge in the world, but if they're not successful, it's typically on them, if you have a good offer. And so I don't necessarily want to jump into that. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Just keep grinding until I get to a point where I have like 6 months open, I guess. That's kind of where I'm at. But then you have opportunities obviously come in front of your face, and then you kind of figure it out too. I found that. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
a lot of times, just as long as you stay in the game, especially like, I mean, yeah, I did this. I saved up enough money from the Amazon stuff and then just stopped and decided to do something else. But it's like, you just stay in the game and something will come. It takes a while. Sometimes you think it's 6 months, it's going to take a year, take a year and a half, or sometimes it happens in 2 months. But as long as you just like don't leave the game, like something will come and something will work for you. That's the biggest thing I've learned. It's hard though. I mean, it's hard to understand that can happen. Like that it can exponentially grow really fast, but you just have to keep it in mind all the time.
I think that's a really important concept that you talk about, and I feel like not a lot of people do it. It's just like having like 6 months, or building that up so you could give yourself space. And that was the only reason my Amazon business grew so fast, because I had a job. Like if my Amazon business went to zero, like I'm stocking an emergency fund, a 6-month emergency fund, with my job money. Like this Amazon stuff is like all extra money. Like, yeah, I don't want to lose it, but it gave me a year, 2 years just to stack that up, where I didn't have to pull any money out of the business. So it grew extremely fast. And I was just like, yeah, you can leave your job because you're good for a year and a half if you do nothing. So like, I think that's where a lot of people get caught too. Or like, you probably talk to a lot of people. It's like, I need to make $10,000 tomorrow and there's nothing in the bank. And like what you said before, I think that's a great portion. Like a lot of people probably don't even ask this, like, well, how much money and time do you have to dedicate to this? Not like what you need to live off of, because like if you're living off your whole salary, it means you have zero money to invest in this.
Put away, right?
Probably not the best thing for you, because it's not going to work. Like I remember taking a call when we were doing high ticket. It was like $2,500, and this guy was just basically like, "Oh, I have, I'm 60 grand in debt on this business. I bought all this inventory. I refused to sell the inventory." He basically had 3 VAs just buy all this inventory. It all tanks. He doesn't want to liquidate the inventory. He wants to like wait it out. And he's like, I have one more credit card left. There's 20 grand on it. I need you guys to fix this situation for me. And I'll give you 5 grand. I'm like, absolutely not. Like this is
yeah.
Because like one, he's uncoachable. Two, like he's already proved that he's not going to listen. And three, it's like, I do not want to be responsible for now your 90K worth of debt. And like, I want nothing to do with it. It's just insane. Like kind of just how some like people think. So I feel like that's a really good point. I think everyone should look at that. Like how much time or money do you have to invest in this? I learned that the hard way this year. Like I've been very diverse, like from Amazon. Now I do a lot of influencer program and UGC. And it's like, where is this time coming from? Like you do a lot of stuff and it's like, okay, like if me and Drew decide to launch a group off of our podcast, it's like, well, where is that time coming from? Like you're already spending so much time doing this stuff. You can arrange time, but I think a lot of people just magically think that like, okay, like I'm going to take Chandler's offer. I'm not like my life will stay the same, but I'm going to make a bunch of money. It's like, no, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of time or money or both and learn a bunch of shit and probably lose a bunch of money before you even come out the other side on top.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And there's a big point you just made there. I'm going to pull this. So, my coach, when I first started, so I hired this guy 3 years ago, and then I actually just hired him back in the last 2 months. He would make me come to his gym every day, and he'd give me a book to read a week. He's like, "This is what you're going to do." It's like my Mr. Miyagi, and he got my mindset right. He made me read this book 3 times. And this is all it says, the one thing, focus on one thing in 300 pages over and over and over. And so I think a lot of people, especially young people, you see on the internet all the time, oh, well, if you want to be wealthy, you have to have 8 streams of income. Sure, but not in the beginning. If you're going to build wealth, there's a difference between maintaining your wealth and building wealth. And to build wealth, you have to focus, like hyper focus your attention into one thing. And a lot of people try to be like jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing, and that never plays out. If you put all of your attention and focus and energy into mastering one skill, that's how you get better than 99% of people. And that's how you get that top level knowledge, because you spend time with it. And so but these are things that I found as an athlete, like just focusing all my energy into lacrosse and getting as good as I could, and doing the things I needed to do to play in college. Same goes for business. It's like if you can just focus on one skill set or one business model, you're going to skull drag everyone else. You're going to have enough money to then dump in other shit. And once you're an expert at it, it's kind of like it's just habitual. You do it on repeat. Like now my calls, I can sit in the bathtub and do them if I want to, because I've done it so many fucking times. And so that's where the rinse and repeat comes in. So if anyone's watching and don't want to be broke anymore, focus on one thing. Pick one thing and focus on it. And don't let all of the new business models, TikTok shop, all this shit that's like coming out of the woodworks, don't let that distract you. Give one thing a full year. It's not, because it's not an will it work, if it will work, it's a when will it work. That's the name of the game. And like you said, John, buy yourself a year. Give it a full year and watch what fucking happens. It's pretty cool.
That's a good way to end it. You got any final questions? That's a good way to top it off.
I don't.
Or do you have any questions for us? We've been asking people that, so anything?
Let's see. I mean, so I have a question for you, Drew. Where are you at now? Because I know you were obviously doing the Amazon thing, and from your page, it looks like you're doing a lot of crypto stuff now. So how's that going? Yeah.
Decent. I was just telling John, I hit a trade yesterday. It was like $400 into $7,200 in like 3 minutes. So that was pretty good. I'm getting better at it. It's just like what you just said. I dropped everything in November. As soon as Trump won, literally I went to sleep and I was like, I'm a crypto guy now. I'm just going to do this until and I've not stopped 12 hours a day, almost every single day, crypto for the last like 4 months. And I can finally like feel myself, making progress now. And I'm like more consistently profitable. I'm probably up, I don't know, like 5-6K in the last 2 weeks. And I lost 15 grand before that. So I think that'll keep going as long as the market keeps going. I mean, you never know, that shit could crash at any time, but that's kind of what I'm looking for in the future.
Awesome. What about you, John?
I'm really focused. I was doing a lot of online arbitrage. Now I'm really focused on the influencer program and then building up kind of UGC. I don't know if I'll venture into TikTok shop, like kind of with like the band, kind of like what you're saying. You can only do so much. I actually cut back. I was running a paid community. I'm getting rid of that. So I could focus more on the influencer program. And I just see so much opportunity there. And that's kind of where I want to focus and be doing most of my work. So I'll probably focus like 90% there this year.
Awesome. And then last question.
You got anything to plug? Go ahead.
Where do you guys see AI going? I think this is a good topic. A lot of people in info are terrified of.
Yeah, dude, you know what's funny? I love talking about this shit. I could have did a whole pod on it. Every time we talk about AI, the episodes do terrible, funny enough. So it's good we saved it to the end because I love talking about it. But every time there's AI in the title, guarantee it's a bad episode. I don't know why people don't
freak out. Yeah.
I think it's like the biggest deal. Yeah, and the DeepSeek thing that just came out, I think that's going to change a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially
we've been testing bots, like call bots. It's not going to replace sales reps. A lot of people ask me that. Our call bot is going to replace sales reps. Not for another 10 years. We're fine. But anyway, sorry, interrupted you. Continue.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I just think that like the attention, I think the more attention it gets on it, that's when it gets more scary. Because most people don't even know how to like prompt ChatGPT correctly. But once you figure out like you can use this DeepSeek thing to like plug in a whole YouTube video and pull out all this stuff and make a program based on this, like all this stuff, like with no effort, I think that's when it's going to get a little scary. But I just think people aren't aware of that stuff. And it's going to take a while to catch on.
100%.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think there'll also be probably kind of like what you're talking about. Like Drew's like, well, you can make a whole program on this. And that's great until a bunch of people start asking you questions. And then like, you're kind of like full of shit. Like, I feel like if you know what you're doing, kind of like you do, and like, the scripts and stuff like that. And I think if you could, we've done this with the YouTube channel, like kind of our analytics, like, all right, here are the analytics, like tell us what you think about this or what can we do better. So like if you uploaded your call scripts or whatever and like, hey, people drop off the phone after 1 minute or what, I don't know the metrics for like your business or whatever, but like I'm sure something like that could be like, hey, you should probably try this, or like here's 4 different scripts to test, right, that you probably wouldn't have like thought to test. So I think it would be really great for that, for testing and stuff like that. I think like the biggest application could be if you could build software and help it fix it. Like
Yes.
I was actually playing around with the other day and I was like, oh, how could is it possible to connect to Riverside to download the podcast, upload the podcast to YouTube, all this stuff? I was like, oh, Riverside doesn't have an API. But if you had to do it, you could put in a Google Drive, use, I forgot what it was, but basically you trigger a thing and then it'll upload to YouTube, but you'll have to write a script. I was like, can you write the script? Like, here's the script. Like, I'm not good enough to implement that script at this point, but I do think at some point in time, which will make me and Drew's life easier because we're thinking about hiring a VA for this. Be like, okay, like we just recorded this podcast with Chandler. As soon as it's downloaded, can you upload to YouTube? Come up with a description. Let me know when you're done. I'll review it, and then if it looks, send me a text message with the link, and then if it's good, I'll say, yeah, post it, next Friday or whatever. And I think that will be an absolute game changer. Or be like, hey, when Drew said we have to cut this part, can you cut that part for me? Instead of having to go back and chop it up and make like 6 reels that are probably going to go viral, and make sure you're like inviting Chandler to collaborate on Instagram. Like, I think that would be absolutely insane and like the biggest game changer. I don't know how close that is, but I think that would be huge.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, we got anything to plug, man? Anything to leave the viewers with?
Yeah. Okay. I'll give a following thought. Your brain is your biggest enemy, not the people around you, not the people on the internet. If you're competing with other people, you're being an idiot. You need to compete with yourself first. If you can't beat the fucking demons up here, you're never going to go anywhere in life. So that's number one. Beat the demons in your head, and that's the key to success.
Sweet. All right. Well, what do you say at the end of the podcast, Sean? I forget.
That's it. Like, subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one. And yeah, peace out.
Peace.